It is the Stephanie Miller Show. Dana Goldberg live in studio with us. Obviously, everybody's talking about this disgrace of a gun violence hearing with Matt Gaetz screaming at and attempting to eject one of the Parkland kids, the fathers of one of the victims in Parkland. And our friend, who I had the honor to meet at Politicon, Fred Guttenberg, was sitting right next to him, and he joins us now. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. How are you?
I am so happy to talk to you again, and so sorry once again after, you and I talked when Brett Kavanaugh snubbed you, when you just went up to try to shake his hand. And the fact that we're in a country where one party just so politicizes, human beings like you that don't want to be there doing that. I assume you'd like to be doing something with your daughter, Jaime, and not having Republican congressmen scream at you, right?
Listen, I think yesterday, and honestly, Stephanie, the best thing that happened yesterday was putting sunshine on what is going on here. Because yesterday, on so many levels, showed what this fight is about. It actually started when 5 minutes into the hearing, the Republican side actually left the hearing.
Yeah.
Only one or two hung around, of which Congressman Gaetz was one of them. They didn't stay around for the hearing. They would come back to ask a question, and then they would leave again.
Yeah.
Congressman Gaetz, I'll give him the credit, he stayed around for most of it. But I have said all year, gun violence and the need to do something about it is not a partisan issue. Republicans and Democrats get shot. Shooters don't walk into schools and churches and temples and malls and ask before they shoot, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Yep.
So it is a bipartisan issue. The response to it is partisan. And we saw that yesterday loud and clear with those who left the room and then with the exchange that happened with Congressman Gaetz from Florida.
Well, right. You said yesterday, Manny stood up and said that's a lie, that's not true, when he obviously is trying to say that a wall somehow would stop these shootings. And he said, I yelled out, our children were killed by an American male. Mr. Gaetz didn't care for the truth, made an inquiry to see if we could be kicked out. You said, I found out what he did to treat what happened to our families that way. It's disgusting, despicable, and vile, but I'm actually thrilled Mr. Gaetz acted like Mr. Gaetz. I think it was wonderful for the American people to see who he is as a person. And you said this is the kind of behavior that got us to where we are now, where 40,000 a year are dying from guns. And Fred, beyond the, unimaginable personal pain you feel, the fact that the statistics of the huge percentages of Americans that agree with you about background checks, which the hearing was supposed to be about, right? About bump stocks, about assault weapons. And yet here we still are, as you say, with this being a partisan thing.
But here we are, and yet in this past year, gun safety is passing state to state. And for the first time in over 8 years, you're now having hearings in Washington that will expose how evil and incompetent some people were and why we got to this place. Let me tell you something about Manny, because he's really one of my favorite people in the world right now. And he's as decent as a person can be. He is a man who came here with his family 15 years ago from Venezuela to escape the violence there. And his son, along with my daughter, was shot here by an American male. Has nothing to do with the southern border, has nothing to do with building a wall. And to incorporate that just shows how desperate that side is to try and keep the status quo, anything from happening. But Manny lost his son. I lost my daughter. 40,000 people a year, okay? Don't tell me we should be okay with that, because we're not. And we're not going to stop fighting this until it gets done. And I'm so thrilled that the House of Representatives held these hearings yesterday. It was only the beginning.
Yeah.
And you will see legislation pass the House this year and next. You will see it probably hit a wall in the Senate. Maybe a few things will come up for a vote in the Senate. And it will be a voting issue in the Senate in 2020. And I am optimistic, just the way the House flipped on this issue, the Senate will in the next election.
Yeah. I mean, I know because you and I have talked about it before, Fred, that the heartbreaking thing is how many parents are going to be in your position between now and then. I mean, when we talk about declaring a national emergency, this is a national emergency. Guns are a national emergency. And
Stephanie,
yeah.
while we're talking on this interview, somebody is getting the news that somebody they love was shot and killed. While we're talking on this interview, somebody is burying somebody who was shot and killed. And while we're talking on this interview, somebody is planning a funeral for tomorrow for somebody who was shot and killed. That's America right now.
Yeah. And by the way, Matt Gaetz did not start being a disgrace yesterday. You recall he invited a Holocaust denier and white nationalist to the State of the Union.
I do.
Yeah. And let me just say, Bette Midler retweeted Emma Gonzalez yesterday. I don't know if you saw that, but we all know the statistics. But she just said, "Allow me to say that of the 154 mass shootings recorded in the U.S. in 2018 through the 28th of June, not one was perpetrated by a black man, undocumented immigrant, or a woman."
Correct.
Which is exactly what Manny said yesterday. My son was killed by an American male. As we were saying, all of these. I mean, this is just so ridiculous that they would go to these lengths for the president's vanity project, this wall, to hijack a hearing about gun violence with this. It is just another layer of disgusting, isn't it?
What Manny actually said yesterday, and why I think the congressman got so upset with him, was Manny said, "That's not true, you're a liar." I was the one who yelled out, "Our children were killed by an American male."
Okay.
But Manny called him a liar. And, that's why I think he got so upset, because, he stands and he puffs his chest and he thinks people just listen to him and accept it. Well, he was a liar, and Manny was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love the whole speaking out of turn. It's like, oh, remind me to be more polite next time my child is slaughtered in school. And, it just, this is really, when they say, oh, you all get so emotional about the gun thing. What would be a good thing to get emotional about, I wonder, if not this?
You know what? I visit my daughter at a cemetery, and it's almost a year now. I should be teaching her to drive. I should be planning a Sweet 16. I should be making fun of her boyfriend. Okay, I shouldn't be in D.C. doing this, so you're damn right I get emotional.
Yeah.
And when people say that, you know what? So be it. It ain't. We're not going to stop. One more thing about this congressman. And everybody needs to go back and look at the Sacha Baron Cohen show, This Is America, and the segment on the kindergarten program.
Yeah.
Because he was on that. And when Sacha Baron Cohen, in this fake program, asked him if he could support arming kindergartners, he did not say no. He said he wouldn't say it on television until he had more information.
Yeah.
That's who these people are.
Yeah. Yeah, well, seriously, I don't know what the line between what's supposed to be comedy, but that is just so not funny at this point in America. It's and what was the latest? They said that the Las Vegas shooter, there's no motive. Well, at some point, Fred, what do we even care what the motive is? We have to stop people from being able to get weapons of war, whatever their motive is, right?
Listen, right now, nobody is saying we should remove weapons from legal, lawful gun owners. But we should, as a country, be doing everything we can to keep weapons from those who intend to kill. And we should keep those who intend to kill, who often project it, where it's often predictable, from being able to access weapons, ammunition, and the means to carry it out. So if somebody has a problem with me saying I want to stop killers from getting weapons, so be it, but we need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so tired of, this, and as I'm sure you are, the same discussion every time this happens. And it just, you would think, like you say, this is just not a partisan issue. And yet,
it's not.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. There's nothing we can do except get more Democrats in, because Republicans, which, and it is interesting to me too, Fred, with the NRA being pretty much almost decimated and in the middle of this Trump-Russia investigation, what they are still in their pockets and so beholden to them. And if anything, you and the other Parkland folks have showed them to be the paper tiger that they are, the NRA.
They 100%. Listen, they have not figured out how to react to people who You know, you look at every other instance of mass violence. Those communities usually after 2 or 3 weeks of reacting, the gun lobby would push back and everybody would stop. We haven't stopped, and they haven't figured out how to react to it, and we're not going to stop. Watching our president at the State of the Union not actually highlight Pittsburgh, which I was glad he did, and heroism, but not talk about the reality that somebody walked into a temple with an AR-15. Again, it's not a partisan issue. The responses, we need to defeat it. We will defeat it. In 1 year, we have certainly changed the way people think about this, and it's going to take one more election cycle, but we're going to keep pushing forward, and we're going to get this done.
Yep. And again, let me apologize on behalf of I don't even know what to say. Decent people that they keep calling you political people. I know that you and the other parents would give anything to not be a political figure of any kind. That nobody asks to do this or be a spokesperson for this. So
I did not sign up for this.
Yeah. But thank you.
I would take my kid back in a New York minute. If someone has a way to do that, help me out, because I'll stop if you bring her back.
Yeah. Fred, it was just such a great honor to meet you at Politicon, and thanks for coming on with us this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you again soon, Fred.
Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.